back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is November 5th, 2017, or as they say over in the UK and in Europe, it is the 5th of November. We get our dates backwards. I think they actually have it correct, but I can't seem to switch it quite so in my mind. Now, if you'll remember a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago, we got a wonderful letter from a Brit named Dr. Charles, and I looked everywhere in this house for a pipe, and there was none. Even my uncle, who, you know, every man should kind of have like a pipe somewhere in their repertoire, just sitting there, and there was no pipe there, and I was, you know, wholly disappointed. I couldn't find any spectacles that I needed. And in that program, I came to you and I voiced my disappointment in not having these things. And so, as always, when it comes to the Resistance Chicks viewers, they never cease to disappoint. And our dear friend Bill decided to remedy the situation by sending me my very own Sherlock Holmes cap. I don't know, it's probably called something. I'm not sure what it's called. And a pipe. A genuine pipe. I have disinfected it, but I know it's a genuine pipe because when I put it in my mouth, I can taste tobacco still. So, it's very real. Someone has used it. Maybe perhaps Bill, I don't know, but I have cleaned it. So I want to thank Bill heartily because I believe that having this in my repertoire that I can pull out at a moment's notice when it is needed, especially with the hat. I mean, this was quite a bonus.
Yes.
This was a real bonus.
The hat was a bonus, and the glasses are belong to
The glasses are my mother's. I do not,
Gallery.
I don't think I have 20/20 anymore, but I think it's something very close to that. However, so thank you very much, dear Bill. I feel, don't the police over there wear these hats? I always see the females there, they sort of have.
I believe that the caps look
although I kind of fancy
similar.
it. I think I should wear it for the whole program, and perhaps I could just, you know, the whole time when Leah is, I could be a little bit more intellectual. If you have I don't know why it makes you more, are you smarter when you smoke a pipe? I don't think so. So, there you go. Thank you, Bill, for that. I will treasure it, and hopefully use it, not literally, but as a prop, often.
Not literally.
So, thank you for that. All right, moving on. What are we going to cover first, Leah?
Our dear Tommy Robinson, as we reported here on Resistance Chicks, our dear friend Mr. Robinson has had his you tell them
his book opening, his book signing. He was going to have a wonderful
bumbling here long
opening in Manchester, and then, as we reported the other day, the police bullied the venue owners into not allowing it to carry on. He had sniffing dogs, and everything was going to be completely safe. And then he was going to force it out into Manchester Square, and then I think it had to be moved even from there.
Yes. So, as the UK Express says, hundreds of far-right supporters and estimated 1,000 far-right fanatics turned out for a book launch by the former English Defence League Tommy Robinson. It seems to be like two slurs in one sentence there. Despite a counter-demonstration by anti-fascist protest, the event appears to have passed relatively peacefully. Now, Robinson said he wanted it to be peaceful. That's why he wanted it in a venue full of armed guards and whatnot. Robinson's real name is Stephen Christopher Yakesley Lennon, was promoting his new book, Muhammad's Quran, which explains why Muslims kill for Islam. And counter-protesters from the United Against Fascism yelled, "Nazi scum off our streets." Now, this seems to be a worldwide phenomenon. In most countries where Muslims are, you don't get the opportunity to chant anything beyond Allahu Akbar.
You know, it was kind of like the other day when that man threw the flags at President Trump and he shouted fascism, and then I came out and said, I stole this from someone else, that if you actually lived in a fascist country, you would not be able to throw flags at the president and shout, "We live in a fascist country," without being shot.
Yes.
So I think that kind of would apply.
Yes, it's quite an interesting turnabout of events here, where we have the entire world filled with anti-fascists who want to shut people up. Where fascism, in essence, shuts people up.
Yes,
if you go to the ex-Muslims' Twitter page, you will find several ex-Muslims. Now, those who are living in America or in Great Britain, many of them feel free to express with their face covered, uncovered, that they left Islam. However, people who are still in Muslim countries have their voices distorted and their faces covered for fear of their life, because there is a death penalty for leaving Islam. Now, I think I was going to cover Egyptian news all at once, but I'm going to bring something to you here.
Okay, so they have asked for the hat to come back on. I don't know.
Oh, I like the hat. Yeah.
So yes, Redneck says, "Am I solving a case later?" I think we're always solving a case on resistance chicks, and I'm going to keep my handy pipe, although it's not going to be used.
Yes, she looks definitely like a Sherlock. I look more like a Watson, but I think that the roles might be reversed, or each of us have a little bit.
What are you trying to say here?
I think each of us have a little bit of Sherlock and a little bit of Watson in us.
I think I'm really good at solving cases.
Now,
come on now.
I was at a friend's house, and she had her father over, who hails from another part of the country. I'm not going to be allowed to give details.
But he brought a Washington Post that might give you a little insight.
I have never actually opened up a real live paper of the Washington Post. It is gigantic.
Now, you keep saying it's gigantic, but
No,
I'm telling you,
bigger.
there was a time when the Cincinnati Enquirer was that big. I remember because we would have newspapers you could actually do something with.
No, this is quite a little bit
They
bigger.
shrunk the Cincinnati Enquirer down to nothing, and it's pretty much just the USA Today.
So, this stuck out to me, this article here. Now, it's titled, Egypt's Latest Crackdown on the Gay Community. Now, I think that most of our viewers are...
What have you been doing with that wallpaper?
It was at a fire, and it's been in the kitchen, and I've been making bread, and it looks like it has some oil stains, and I saved it from being burned. It will be burned in a minute. So yes, you see some smoking and some smoke and ashes on it. Anyways, I read this. Yes, I read this at the light of the fire last night. This is actually from October 19th, but it's still pertinent news. So, several things stood out to me. I was wondering if the Washington Post, the WAPO, would...
they sound Indian, like Native American. The WAPO.
In explaining why the crackdown on gays in Egypt, if they would mention Islam or radical extreme Islam.
No, it's not. It has nothing to do with Islam that they're killing the gays. It's strictly just Egypt alone. The Egyptians cannot stand homosexuals. That's what it is. I'm certain.
Actually, it's very twisted. It's twisted. Let me read to you some of these statistics here. More than 60 people have been arrested. Human rights advocates said since a rock concert. There was a rock concert there with some gay
and they were flying
Lebanese,
the flag, the rainbow flag. I didn't have a rainbow flag.
Somebody flew a rainbow flag. And this article actually says the citizenry was upset, so the government cracked down. Mm-hmm. So I just want you to know that first off, that the Washington Post is actually shilling for the Egyptian government, why else would you say the citizenry was outraged so the government decided to crack down? Security forces have also detained people in their homes in the middle of the night and have used apps and online chat rooms to entrap those believed to be gay. Some cafes frequented by lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community have been shut down. Some of those arrests have endured beatings and abuse in their prison cells, while others have been subjected to forced anal examinations. All right, well, if you're not gay, that might hurt.
Ow, dang!
The targeting of the community was never on this scale before the rock concert. I guess one woman who waved the flag was given over to the prison mates and told to be beaten all night long. She says over here, security guards ordered female prisoners to attack Sarah in her cell. She was beaten up for one night. Egyptian authorities did not respond to requests to comment, but have denied allegations of the human rights. Now, they have told us why this has happened. Now, hold on to your butts, in the words of Samuel. Who's that? Who's the guy?
In Jurassic Park, yeah, but I don't think he
invented that. Hold on to your butts, man. Hold on to your butts, man. All right, so.
Just get ready, she means. Just get ready.
All right, so are you ready for this? Targeting the gay community. Activists say appeals to Egypt's mostly conservative population.
So now they have just labeled conservatives with people that will actually jail and kill homosexuals. You see how they did that?
Now this next line is what I want you to hear. Muslims and Christians consider homosexuality to be a sin. So, a 2013 survey by the Pew Research Center found that 95% of Egyptians believe that homosexuality was socially unacceptable. Now, what it has just done was take Muslims and align them with Christians and basically deflect from Islam
onto Christianity.
That in Egypt, where Christians are tortured and burned, and a very,
if not more than the actual homosexuals.
That line is so disingenuous because Christians make up a very, very small portion of Egypt. And yet they said 95% of Egyptians find homosexuality unacceptable.
But does the Christian population there view homosexuality as something that should be jail-worthy or worthy of death?
I believe the Christians just keep their mouth shut on all things. I do not believe that they have much of a voice in Egypt. So, back to Tommy Robinson. So, here we see all over the world that the negative portions of Islam are always conflated with conservatives, the far right.
This is a brand new thing that they've been doing for the past couple of months. They all of a sudden have started labeling Muslims as conservative and right-wing leaning.
I'm going to look up percentage of Christians in Egypt, and I don't have the number right off the top.
So, you will be accused of Egyptophobia, Jim West says. Yes. Save the Egypt Coptins from Islam.
New York Times. Egypt's cruelty to Christians. I'm guessing they don't have much of a say. I do know that they are a very small amount. Okay, 10%. Coptic Christians are the largest Christian community in the Middle East, numbering about 10% of Egypt's 90 million people. Okay, so 10% of Egypt's people are Christians. 95% of Egypt's people believe that. So I'm guessing the 5% is probably Christians who don't want Muslims to be. Gay Muslims to be jailed. So, anyways, that was my point there with that, and how they smear people who have two eyes, two ears, and a nose to sniff out corruption. Dan Hett, brother of Manchester bombing victim Martin Hett, gave a speech at the counter demo and was reportedly heckled by far-right supporters. Of course, this is a very skewed article, but I thought I'd bring it up for you to see the other side.
You are going to mention that Democrats are KKK and slavery. But they say they're not. And the Muslims are left, but the Democrats are trying to say they're not left.
Well,
Democrats always twist and try and say something different than it's true.
Well, since we're in the UK, I won't actually go down the road of Democrats. I will go down the road of the left because they're the same mindset of Jeremy Corbyn and the Communist Socialist Group. Here, Corbyn and the Labour MPs launched Islamophobia Month with Extremist Mend Group. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn and a number of his MPs attended the launch of Islamophobia Awareness Month, with the group MEND, which according to news reports promotes extremist views, harbors anti-Semites, and gives a platform to Islamist views. Just days ago, a new report detailed Muslim engagement and development, MEND, extensive connections to radical and anti-Semitic groups and speakers, and listed examples of its leaders condoning attacks on British troops and praising al-Qaeda terrorists. So, it's very interesting that Jeremy Corbyn would be aligning himself with said groups. MEND has strongly opposed counter-terror laws and pro-Western Muslims, as well as regularly hosting illiberal, intolerant, and extremist Islamist speakers at public events. Speaking of Egypt, there was a lawyer who actually got on television in Egypt and said that it was your duty to rape women wearing ripped jeans. And so they went in a frenzy to try to make sure that they backtracked to those who it aired right on television.
That's a big oops.
Oops, yes, it is definitely the thought thinking, but you're not allowed to speak it. Mr. Corbyn was joined by representatives of London's police, a bunch of National Union of Students here, and one of those in the audience was Imam Sulaiman Ghani, who has spoken in support of Al-Qaeda terrorists, said homosexuality is unnatural and women should be subservient, and organized sectarian hate campaigns in London. However, Jeremy Corbyn says, hey, let's be best buddies, BFFs. Jennifer Gerbin and the director of Labour Friends of Israel told the Jewish Chronicle it was utterly unacceptable Jeremy Corbyn last night chose to attend an event organized by a group which has repeatedly peddled myths about the power of the Israeli lobby that play into classic anti-Semitic tropes. Majid Nawaz, who founded the Quilliam counter-extremism think tank, condemned Mr. Streeting and Mr. Kinnock's participation. Speaking on his LBC radio show, he said, "What are you two thinking? You should be ashamed of yourselves. There's no way you should be involved with this organization. Your colleagues have pulled out. What are you doing at this event?" Mr. Corbyn, who has previously praised Islamic terror groups Hamas and Hezbollah, reportedly told the audience, "Our future lies in mutual respect with all communities." The Muslim Arab community is quite racist, and they take black people from Africa, and there's still slavery in Saudi Arabia and all these Muslim communities and things like that. They're very anti-Semitic, just like communists are, and this all plays into this 100-year Bolshevik revolution everybody is tweeting about today. Tommy Robinson was tweeting about it today. The fact that after Nazism fell, it was strongly condemned, but communism has not been strongly condemned, even though it killed 65 million people. And so, as Patriot Galley was saying, in America, our Democratic Party is the party of the KKK, the party of the South who wanted to keep slaves. And why they align with themselves with Muslims is it's all about control.
I have dropped this link in the description so you guys can peruse that later.
Speaking of the UK, acid attack capital, we will continue to bring this as news keeps breaking. London corrosive liquids crimes
Oh my gosh.
surges 186% in 15 years.
Wow.
The rate of acid attacks and other acid-related offenses being committed in London has soared in recent years, while the average age of the suspect for the crime has plummeted. Now, this would have plummeted. This plummeted.
This
would have nothing at all to do with the fact of these young Muslim migrants coming in, and the fact that Islam all over the world uses acid to hurt people and as a weapon because they can't get their hands on guns in some places. Right. I have never heard of acid attacks
until
we were talking about Afghanistan and things like that.
Right.
And so when our main story that we want to bring to you guys is a Hungarian Secretary of Treasury, I believe, was
Secretary of State.
Was he Secretary of State?
Yeah.
Okay. He was interviewed by Sky News, the Hindu guy on Sky News. And he is really put in a corner saying that he's racist. He's like, we have to call things out. Yes, Muslims do these things. And he said it's a cultural difference between Christian Europe and other cultures. When you look at other countries, they all have a culture. You look at Australia, you look at China, you look at Japan even. You look in South America, there are cultures. And cultures dictate, it's kind of like our friends, like Amish community, a lot of them don't have rules written down. It's just kind of known what you do and what you don't do. A lot of rules when we grow up, nobody actually tells you the rules. You just pick up on them. So if you're in an Islamic country, you pick up on rules. And so when you come into a Christian country, those rules, they don't apply. They're not the same thing. We don't throw gays off of buildings. We don't throw acid into people that we don't like. We don't we're not honor bound with killing daughters who have sex outside of marriage.
Right.
These aren't part of our culture. You don't molest little boys with the Baji boys or Baha, whatever you call them.
In Afghanistan.
The dancing boys in Afghanistan. That's a part of Afghanistan culture. I actually had a dream last night that some woman brought her 3 children over to sit next to me, and she had a rusty knife, and she was getting ready to genitally mutilate her daughter.
See, you research too much
I know.
news. This is horrific.
I know. So I tried to, in my dream, to explain to her, and I was trying to bring up, like, wait, you need to listen to Ayana Hershey Ali. She was generally mutilated, because she's, like, acting like it's completely normal, that it's okay. She's telling her daughter.
You didn't grab the knife and, like, take the lady down, tackle her, call the cops.
I don't know where I was going. I woke up. So, anyways, my point is that's a cultural thing. It doesn't happen in all Islam,
Right.
but it happens in Islam and Islamic culture. So, let's see. The new statistics released by the Metropolitan Police reveal between 2002 and 2016, violent offenses involving acid increased from 145 to 416, a 186% rise. Shocking figures are set to become even worse once 2017 levels are taken into account. The one thing I do appreciate about the UK government versus like Sweden is that I think that there's enough good guys in your police force that you do give real statistics.
Yeah.
With backgrounds, and you're not, it's not really politically correct to do so, but you have just enough people in there that we get the numbers, whereas nothing's coming out of Sweden. Like, they have to be leaked, right?
Right.
There have been 739 total corrosive liquid or related offenses in 2017 so far. 411 which were classified by police as violent. I don't know what the other ones weren't. The remainder could be people being caught with banned substances, so using them to harass others. I guess they actually did it in 411 of the cases. In addition to the concerning rise of the use of acids and other corrosive liquids to attack people in London, comes a revelation over the falling age of suspects, and they're getting younger and younger and younger. Now, let's see. This isn't, nope, that's Egypt's cruelty to Christians. That's Tommy. I saw this tweeted out. I'm sure to bring it up here. By, where is it? Sorry. Where is it?
I had to scroll one of your Twitter pages. You might need to go back.
No, it was something that tweeted out from our favorite Nigel Farage.
So,
I'm going to find it.
Inner Tack says, we have 2 clinics specializing in helping FGM victims. Hundreds of girls helped every year. 0 convictions. Wow.
Play a video. Something's playing. This is the one. I don't want something to play. Oh yeah, you told me to look for the thing.
Yeah, you lost what you were doing.
Yeah, I'm in France here. I'm in Egypt here. Where I'm gonna have to go to Breitbart to find it, because it was it's kind of disturbing. Let me see.
There is a very strange alliance with Islam and the left, not compatible at all, but both play the offended and victim cards so well. Thank you, Jim. Well said.
Okay, so Europhobic F-slap pro-EU paper glorifies violence against Brexit voters. So I guess there's this scene here that says something this side of a bus, you F-wit, the New European, will this, sorry, it's kind of vulgar. How's this for the will of the people, you Europhobic? Yeah. So
you guys use that F-bomb over there like it's nobody's business. We Americans use it, but not quite as boldly.
A newspaper dedicated
Patriot Gallery.
Just between Muslims and the left, they're both sexually perverted pedophiles.
True.
They have sexual problems. That's why they get along well, whereas Christianity and Christians are more pure, more straight. We think more sound-mindedly.
Right.
Right.
A newspaper dedicated to reversing the results of the Brexit referendum result has been slammed for publishing cartoons glorifying violence against those who voted to leave the European Union. The new European was set up after the nation voted to leave the EU and has previously been caught accidentally releasing plans to, quote, stir up controversy in towns that backed Brexit. Now they have published a cartoon strip depicting Brexit voters being punched and slapped by Remainers described as fantastic, entitled Tales of Love from the Transition Period. Put that on the side of a bus, you blank blank, exclaims an angry-looking woman knocking a pro-Brexit man to the ground, and one referring to the Vote Leave campaign promise to repatriate the $350 million spent each year on EU membership. How's this for the will of the people? And then, of course, slap Nigel Farage, a member of the European Parliament and former leader of the UK, told Breitbart London, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse. The new European stoops to new lows to glorify violence against those who voted for Brexit. No longer can they claim to call Brexiteers divisive. If you ever needed an example as to why the Remain campaign lost, this is it. The depictions of violence against Brexit voters comes just weeks after one of the most powerful men in the British government, Theresa May's second in charge, Damien Green, picked out Breitbart London as a supposed source of hatred in the UK media, which he said could lead to the murder of a member of parliament. No mention was made of the New European, however. In June of this year, the paper published a column claiming race-related assaults spiked after Brexit and arguing there is a link between political messaging and vigilant violence and that the UK is building up our own hate crime crisis. Yet the paper had previously depicted Brexit voters as evil clowns, and in January, Cambridge professor Nicholas Boyle branded people who voted for Brexit as lagalouts and ruffians. So I wanted to share that with you.
That's lovely.
Lovely.
So Sean says that they have signs up in doctor surgeries. I'm assuming that's like just doctor offices, or I don't know if that's emergency rooms. But either way, that say what to do in case of an acid attack. And he said that used to not be a thing.
Wow.
And I'm literally, you know, you have to put yourself in that shoe.
Yeah.
You know, especially as a female, because those are mostly the recipients of these acid attacks. What would you do if literally that acid was thrown on your face and they're saying carry lots of water? I mean, it's not even enough.
I don't even
take
think
so much.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have damage. If it gets on you just instantly, you don't, I mean, it's like toilet bowl cleaner. You don't mess around with this stuff.
I wanted to bring this up because it was interesting when somebody calls you out, and then they're found to be pretty bad. It's kind of important. So the Whitehall inquiry into First Secretary of State Damien Green has been widened for claims police found extreme pornography on his computers. According to the former, and that's got to be bad.
Extreme pornography.
I know in the UK, I know you guys are a little bit more than us. So
a little bit more risque.
Yeah. According to the former Metropolitan Police Assistant Commissioner Bob Quick, a police raid uncovered the material on computers in Mr. Green's parliamentary office during an inquiry into government leaks in 2008. But the former police chief said he was made to quit his job before he was able to report the discovery to the parliamentary authorities, resigning after he was photographed with a secret briefing note on which sensitive information concerning anti-terror operations could be seen. Mr. Quick had reported that police unearthed material of an extreme pornographic nature on computer evidence taken from the Tory MP's office in a draft statement to the Levison inquiry, which took place during 2011 and 2012. No criminal offenses were involved, but it was recognized that if similar circumstances pertain to a public servant, such as a member of the police force, this could result in gross misconduct proceedings and dismissal. So I wanted to put that out. This guy has previously slammed Breitbart London as fake news. And British government wants Breitbart London to pipe down, but we won't. So I wanted to put that out there because not only is the UK like there's a concerted effort, because I think that Breitbart is the only you could say you've got the Daily Mail, right? And they publish things too. But they're kind of like a gossip rag as well.
Right.
So they're not as legitimate. Breitbart is legitimate news reporting, and they legitimately report from a conservative viewpoint on British politics, on your European news. And there are people out there that hate Breitbart for that very reason.
Right.
And they want to bring them down. So, and the guy we're going to cover, sorry, I have some itches. The guy we're going to cover who was interviewing the guy from Hungary, he banned Breitbart and every editor from Breitbart from his Twitter page.
Wow.
He was very upset about their covering of this, so I can't wait to get to that.
So I have one that I'm going to drop into, if I can here, to the page. Sorry, guys, that's the last one.
Are we gonna? You have videos playing?
Nope, I don't have a video playing.
Okay.
But I'm going to get rid of this other one. Where'd it go? There it is. All right, so as with any smart move, what you would try to do is get as many new voters as you can, right? And so there are people on the left that want to lower the voting age. so that they can get more votes, because unfortunately, because they have these kids in the public school system, they are able to brainwash them. So they know that the sooner they can get these young voters into the ballot boxes, then they really can shift, you know, a tide. And it is kind of scary, I think, in Britain particularly, because you do have a lot of these people that voted Brexit, and they are going to, you know, eventually die out. And this younger generation that's been completely and utterly brainwashed is going to rise up. So the article says that the Labour have accused Conservative MPs of sabotaging an attempt to lower the voting age for general elections. Labour MP Jim McMahon said Tory MPs had deliberately made long speeches during an earlier debate to reduce the amount of time available for his proposal. Deputy Commons Speaker Eleanor Lang rejected the claim, saying MPs would have been stopped if they had gone on too long and were entitled to make passionate speeches. But Mr. McMahon stuck to his guns. One day too young to vote. What causes Labour's youth vote surge? He said the government should be concerned about its MPs' tactics, because 16 and 17-year-olds today might be denied the right to vote, but in 2 years, that video might actually be playing. Sorry, guys.
It is.
Hopefully it's not. Well, it's not.
Okay.
If I click play, it'll actually play the video.
Okay, good.
Because 16 and 17-year-olds today might be denied the right to vote, but in 2 years' time, they will remember who blocked them from having that democratic right only 2 years earlier, when they're still children. His private member's bill would have given 16 and 17-year-olds the right to vote in UK general elections, local elections, and referendums. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, who backs a reduction in the voting age, made an appearance in the Commons chamber to support Mr. McMahon's bill and was greeted with cheers from his MPs. During a stormy debate, Conservative MP Bernard Jenkins said, "It would be a great mistake to lower the voting age to 16. Most 16 and 17-year-olds do not have the level of political knowledge or maturity required." Agreed. But Scottish Conservative MP Luke Graham praised giving 16 and 17-year-olds the vote during the 2014 independence referendum. He said, "We actually extended the franchise to 16 and 17-year-olds, which is as a pragmatic conservative, we saw as a valuable test. Wouldn't you agree they passed that test with flying colors, and we should be a united kingdom in giving the right across our country?" So there is that. So I wanted to throw that out there because it seems like they're grasping at straws. You're desperate when you have to lower the voting age because you don't have the votes amongst adults. Okay, they're just not there.
Point?
We simply have to go to the babies and the infants. Would you like a cookie if
at
you
what
vote?
Point
if you
do you
vote
keep
for the,
like? At what point is 16 okay, but 15 is like way too young? Is
right,
15,
it just keeps going.
Is 14?
And going and going.
Do we give toddlers the right to vote? Infants?
Most 16 and 17-year-olds don't even know what they want to wear when they wake up.
Yeah.
All right, they certainly are not capable of making political
and they're not
decisions.
living on their own. They're not. I don't know. I know. I don't believe in the UK. You guys can join the military at 16. I mean, here in America, I can only go by here in America. 16 and 17-year-olds should not be allowed to vote.
They shouldn't be allowed to drive. They shouldn't be allowed to do a lot of things. It used to be, and here's an interesting thing about the UK for those of you that don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong here, guys. But you guys finish schooling around that age, whereas here in the United States, it's at 18. So I have noticed a level of maturity amongst Britons in general that is more than Americans, just because they are thrust into adulthood a little bit earlier. So there is that aspect of it that I can kind of understand, but still, I don't think. I think it's a good
really
idea.
We have to base it on scientific data.
Sure.
I think that's the best thing to do. When you look at a 16-year-old boy or girl,
Male
they are
brains
not
don't finish developing until they're like 24.
They're not developed. So the idea that 18 is minimum. Because 18 is like the minimum age when people go from adolescence and puberty and start to switch over. It's like minimum.
Patriot Gallery.
The voting age in the past was 21.
Right. And then it got lowered to 18. So it's already, well, that's here in the United States. It's already been lowered.
Right.
And it used to be that you would get one vote per family.
Right.
And now every person in the family, that's why they just they're not getting the votes they need, and that's why they have to keep, sullying it, and
Exactly.
Out.
Okay, so I think we can move on for a second to let's go to Austria. Austria's right-wing and populist parties agree to slash migrant benefits, taxes, and coalition talks.
Wow.
So Austria's Conservative People's Party and the right-wing populist party have agreed to slash benefits for migrants and introduce 5-year residency rules to curb welfare for the EU. This was proposed, but I think they're definitely going to do it. So Austria took in a huge number of asylum seekers, equivalent to more than 1% of its population. The largest groups of arrivals into the nation have been Syrians, Afghans, and Nigerians. The agreed policies, along with a commitment to the EU, budget discipline, and tax cuts, are being slated as the basis for a new right-wing coalition agreement to form a ruling government. We talked about how the OPP got the majority. So they are jointly committed to ensuring sustainable financing as a basis for their work. So I wanted to point that out there. I'm actually pretty proud of them. They plan to slash welfare benefits for migrants and are considering introducing a 5-year residence qualification for citizens of other EU countries to be eligible for welfare payments in Austria. So it's a slippery slope when you're a welfare nation and when you're socialist. Right. Because when does the pocket stop? When do you stop giving things out? Let's see. Here is an astonishing map, shows the movement of millions of migrants across Europe. I'm going to bring this up here in a second. In the past 15 years, amid unprecedented refugee crisis fueled by terror and conflict in the Middle East. I don't see it as a refugee crisis. I see this as people just seeing that you can go. I mean, look at that. That's just insane.
I don't even know that they can see that. I mean, it's so light. So hang on, search behind your head. They're not gonna be able to see it like there, and then it's all concentrating there. Wow.
You can see these little dots.
I hope that they can see them. I mean, there's some down here.
And they all go to the middle of Deutschland, and then they go from Germany. I mean, it's just, I mean, you guys should watch this. It's actually kind of scary to think about.
I'll try to drop that in the link. Okay, so Tracy, a.k.a. Tallulah, she says that you can leave school. We'll get you in a second. Patriot Gallery. She's raising her hand. Like a good student or teacher, whatever you want to call it. You can leave school at 16 if you have a job or apprenticeship to go to. Most stay on to sixth form to study A levels now and then go on to university. So thank you for that, Tracy. All right, Patriot Gallery.
I just say that could be disappointing to a lot of people. We're here to bring people hope. What they don't have a map of is all the people being red-pilled. If you look,
we need a red pill map.
Whether it's China or Russia or Hungary or France or Brazil or Argentina, you're going to see that light up with light.
Right.
The light of God is shining ever. You notice that was gray. If
very dark.
Who's getting red-pilled and who God is touching, the whole world is being lit up with the light of God and the truth.
Right, exactly. Intertax says, good on Austria. Take back your country. We need to dissolve the EU and the UN before everyone is living like the Venezuelans. It's an invasion. End of story.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So let me see. In Germany, Germany and France are dividing up top EU positions to tighten the grip on the EU bloc. To control you, to, make you whipping posts. Germany and France are carving up the EU top jobs between themselves with a string of powerful positions up for grabs. New chiefs of the EU Commission, Council, Parliament, Foreign Office, and European Central Bank are set to be assigned by 2019, and reports in the German media suggest Chancellor Angela Merkel, is pushing for current Bundesbank President Jens Wildeman to become the next head of the central bank. Emmanuel Macron, meanwhile, wants a Frenchman to take over the European Commission. And so they're just, here you go. So, what is this?
Do you think you're going to get the Europeans to support you in terms of sanctions, in terms of not selling technology to Iran?
Honestly, I told them, they're friends of mine. They really are. I get along with all of them. Whether it's Emmanuel or whether it's Angela, I get along. I really
it's
like
true,
those
he does.
people.
He does.
Just
we're not sure we appreciate that.
Don't worry about it. We don't need you on this.
Oh, don't
just
worry.
Keep making money. We don't need you.
That's funny.
And I think that's very telling about Trump, though. that I don't appreciate. I love it when I get the opportunity to call out something that Trump says that I don't like, so that you guys can see how fair and balanced we are.
Yeah.
The fact that he does get along with everybody and he prides himself on getting along with everybody, it does disturb me. What's going on down here where this is about to go?
Sunny. Here you go, Bob. Sydney.
She's like, it's going to go.
Come here, Sydney.
We're going to have another Sydney moment, and I'm holding down the fort until we can get it worked out. But
Okay.
yeah, I did not appreciate that line. God, we played that.
There's only one way to make money. If Merkel's going to make money, she has to get some gold and some silver and melt it down and have a foundry work. Then she can make money. But you're not making money if you're not melting gold and silver. Because that's
technically she is making
money.
Exactly.
He's asking her to
She's
counterfeit
inventing
money.
it.
The Austrian people, here we go, want a Eurosceptic anti-mass immigration coalition, according to a new poll. The Austrian People's Party and the Freedom Party are preferred choice for 34% of the electorate. The OVP, run by Sebastian Kurz, received the highest share votes. And I like that this was pointed out. Euroscepticism is winning.
It is winning, and that really is spreading. You can't say it's spreading like a disease because it's spreading like a cure, but cures don't usually spread.
Right.
But it is healing from the inside out, and I'm very excited about that.
So this was from Fox News. Greece-bound boat with 310 migrants stopped in Turkey, Istanbul. Turkish authorities say 310 migrants have been stopped from crossing the Aegean Sea. How do you guys say that? Aegean Sea to reach Greece. Turkey's Coast Guard said the migrants were stopped Friday afternoon while traveling in a fishing boat. So I think that there's been a huge crackdown on the influx that we were seeing, especially over the
migrant boats, specifically, because that is and was a huge problem. So that's kind of big news.
Yeah. So when we were covering when we were covering Holland's the Dutch election, we got a lot of viewers from Deutschland. No, that's Germany. From the Dutch, and I was really excited because. We share a lot in common, and I do like Wilders. I think that he has been upfront about Islam, but he's not, from what I see in him, he's not racist. He's just upfront, and the fact that everybody labels everybody, it's kind of like in New York. The police chief came out and said, after the trucking attack, if you see something, say something.
Right.
But I was watching Fox News and they said, but if you see something and you say something, then you're a racist. So
bingo.
And what we see, and we see it every day, the misery Islam brings us, thanks to half a century of pure cowardice. And those over there are the cowards that handed over our country. And they don't dare to talk about it, not one word about Islam in the coalition agreement. And so this agreement will not solve our country's existential crisis. It will only get worse. The invasion will go on. Under Route 2 and 3, we are confronted with an asylum number of 250,000 people. And everybody's a winner. You either get a permit or not, but illegals get free accommodation and food. And the children's pardon remains while our people are paying through the nose. For health care that is for free for asylum seekers. That is called discrimination. Dutch are being discriminated against.
We have that in the United States too.
Yeah, streets show the cultural enrichment of mass immigration. Concrete blocks to prevent innocent families from being run over. Open borders means we have to take shelter. Many are afraid their wives and daughters are being harassed. Or even molested during shopping or on their way to school, and rightly so. So, a multicultural society means gays are banished and women are called whores on the street. And that a woman without a headscarf is literally game in some neighborhoods. And have markets where you only hear Arabic and Turkish. That is the reality of many people. So I wanted to share Gert Wilders. We haven't heard from him in a while. He says terror is a greater threat than ever.
So he mentioned the concrete blocks, and Worth a Look had sent me an article for Sweden. Digital anti-terrorism fences to combat extremist attacks
so weird.
in
It's like
Sweden.
Pokemon or something for trucks.
Swedish Infrastructure Minister Thomas, whoever, plans to introduce digital geo-fences in major urban areas across the country next year. The move is aimed at preventing attacks that use trucks and other large commercial vehicles.
See, I just want to interject here. This is the whole thing about like the gun narrative and the truck narrative. It's like the trucks randomly kill people.
Right.
The ideology behind the truck driver has nothing to do with it. It's like you create laws when accidents happen.
Right.
You know, like random things happen. Like, you know, certain fires start and, you know, things like that. But trucks don't just ram into people. And so if you really can stop the ideology first, why go to all this trouble to make everybody who's actually a really good citizen have to go through a bunch of trouble? You know, they want to put boxes in trucks that slow down their speed.
Right.
But a criminal is going to take the box out of the truck.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
seriously.
So they're also implementing a lot of more of the concrete blocks and things like that. And so if that is what has to happen to protect the citizens from these attacks, I would think that it would be actually more economical to just stop the people from coming into the country in the first place.
I would too. Or they would arm their police. This is in France. It's kind of blurry, but the police officers are here, and the dudes keep getting sprayed, and they keep attacking the police officers. In America, bang bang, you're down. I guess not in France. This is a thing. This is a thing.
Yeah, but do they carry guns in France? The police?
Well, I don't know why they don't shoot them. They're literally, it looks like they have like stun guns or something, not real guns.
Like tasers?
Yeah, because you don't like shoot somebody with a real gun like this. Okay, so obviously they're just...
It's embarrassing policing. Like,
It's like this. Go, 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 go. Gotta get out of here. Go, 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 go. We gotta get away from the criminals. Go, 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 go.
when the police run from the criminals, we got problems. That's embarrassing.
I think the police got pepper sprayed too.
It's awful.
So here is beautiful France here. This is Paris. It's gorgeous. It's such a beautiful city. I mean, look at that. Who wouldn't want to go live there? Who wouldn't want to visit there? It's beautiful.
Stop it. And okay, hang on. Pause for the time where Michelle takes a moment of silence to mourn for the fact that all of us in the United States, I don't know if you guys quite understand this, because I think the dream of coming to America for a vacation isn't exactly the same as those of us that dream of going to Europe or even the UK. I mean, it's such a romantic ideal. Oh, we're going to go to France and we're going to eat baguettes or something, you know, and we're going to see the Eiffel Tower and everything. It's going to be lovely. And now it's not there.
France.
Nobody wants to go anywhere. We don't want to come to see you people. We don't want to be there because it is it's you. They are losing everything that made the country
gross.
sovereign and beautiful, and it's just sad. Fight for your countries. And as Patriot Galley says, I'm not allowed to end it on a depressing note. We are winning. The EU is going down, and I believe that we can take it back, but it's going to take a little bit of a fight to do so.
So, to Egypt. Egypt cleric says men can marry their own daughters if they are born out of wedlock. Now, I believe this surfaced recently. I know. This surfaced, there's actually a video made in 2012 where Mazin al-Shirsawi, a prominent scholar, cites prominent scholar Iman al-Shafi'i to make the case that fathers can marry their daughters born in an adulterous relationship. And here's what he says. He says, if a girl is born out of an adulterous relationship, she has no father, and therefore because she has no father, then you can marry her your daughter, because it's not really your daughter. Yeah, it's a thing.
The more they do this, the more they show that they are not worshiping the real true God. Because worshiping the true God is purity and holiness.
Exactly.
And you protect and love your children. This shows how sexually perverted they are.
Right.
They already do pedophilia. Now they want to do pedophilia in their family.
Mom, I would take it a step further and say that this shows that they are inhuman. Because it goes against human nature. We can take God completely out of this situation. It goes against human nature to think, I can marry my daughter. It's that simple.
Well, and the fact that they would father a child in an adulterous relationship and not be stoned to death because they're the dude, right?
Right.
It's okay for guys to do it, not okay for girls.
You said it.
And this guy is literally, he is...
There's evil in that face.
Yeah. He is...
You can see the evil in the face.
He teaches at the prestigious Egypt's Al-Azhar University, one of the most prestigious institutions in Sunni Islam. So, we've already been to Egypt. We know that they're, they hate gay people and they put them in jail. I told you about the lawyer who went on television and said that, it's your duty bound to rape women with ripped jeans on. And now this guy who is a prominent professor, he says you can marry your daughter. Earlier this year, another Egyptian cleric, Mufta Mohammed Marouf, said in televised debate the age for marrying should be low enough for newborn babies to be married off. He said, long as no harm is done to the child, there's no problem preventing her from being married. Adding, in Islamic Sharia, there's no set age for marriage when it comes to females. That's my yay.
No, that's your let's go kill him. I'm sorry, no, listen, we were at a friend's house last night, and she was talking about her brother, who is also a friend of ours, and how he's reading the Quran, and Leah and I are absolutely applauding that. I think that those of you that are able to do so should, to kind of understand the mindset there. And she pointed out that, as we all know, there are many interpretations of the Quran. There are many versions of Islam, and not all of them take this hard of a line. But I think that it's fair enough to go back to Muhammad himself and look at his lifestyle and just interpret the Quran through that. He married a little girl named Aisha, and his views for homosexuality and things like that, his views on the woman's role, Sharia law, being covered, things like that. I think it's really simple to at least look at those basic things that he lived out in his life and say, you know what? This religion is not okay.
Right, absolutely. In Germany, 15 German police are injured dispersing a Kurdish rally with banned PKK flags. The police deployed pepper spray and water cannons against a crowd of Kurdish demonstrators in western Germany city of Dusseldorf after they refused to lay down portraits of a jailed leader of the Kurdish Workers' Party, which is outlawed in Germany. 15 officers. Can you make it, Sid?
She's trying to get on the couch.
Almost.
Go get her.
Oh, Bubby.
She did it.
You can finish.
Where are we at, Kurdish? What?
Okay, here I got it.
Let me go get what you got beeping in the oven.
They're not
cinnamon rolls.
They're not actually in the oven. They need to go in the oven.
Can we go get them?
If you want to.
I'll get them.
Sorry, when you do bread, it has to be certain timed, and if you don't, then it'll all just fall. And I thought I would have it in there like earlier today. So. Whoa. 15 officers and at least 3 demonstrators were injured in the scuffles that ensued.
Look at this. This is going in the oven. That's not even baked yet. That's what's going in the oven right now. There's 3 of these. Sorry.
So let's see if I can play this here. So I'm not sure that they're quite as appreciative of the country that they're in. This doesn't look good. Yeah, no, we'll just remember, hopefully.
No timer.
Like 25 minutes. So, there you have it. Yeah. The PKK is considered a terrorist entity in Turkey, Germany, and elsewhere in the EU, as well as in the US. Displaying its symbols as well as images of its leader is prohibited.
In the EU. You said in the U. What
No,
is that? You
I
shortening
said
stuff?
elsewhere in the EU.
It sounded like you just said you.
As well as images of its leader is prohibited, but many protesters are still carrying banners and placards featuring Öcalan. Police said that they repeatedly warned those gathered to roll up the outlawed imagery if they wanted the rally to go ahead. A spokesman for the demonstrators, however, argued that the police provoked the clashes, insisting that they first encircled the rally and impeding the passage of demonstrators. And so you have a little bit of violence happening here. Oh, this poor woman was pepper sprayed, I guess, by the police or something. So there you have it. A little bit. I don't know. I'm a reporter. I'm reporting on them. I don't know much about the banned PKK party, but they're banned as terrorists, and I guess they align themselves with terrorism. So
Wow.
Yay for them. I do know that the Kurds want a separate Kurdish state in Iraq. So yeah, there you have it.
I'm sorry I was laughing because Sean was upset. He said, I can't believe you're showing me the cinnamon rolls that you are about to eat. I mean, would I eat fish and chips in front of you? Yes, you would, and you did.
Cost of asylum seekers up 73% in 1 year, over 9 billion euros. Oh my gosh.
What?
A report from the German Federal Statistic Office claims the amount of money spent on asylum seekers increased last year by 73%, with the government spending a total of 9 billion
Let's get it right.
euros on migrants. The money was assigned to various people and projects under the Asylum Seekers Benefits Act and totals all the money paid by the federal, state, and local governments in the country. In 2015, the number was close to 5.2 billion. So literally, it just all this fake money, and you get each asylum seeker gets a little over 1,000 euros per month. Under the Asylum Seekers Benefit Act, each individual is entitled to 354 for their accommodation and heating bills, and asylum seekers are also granted cash for food, clothing, and can I just go there and live? And that
You know
sounds
what?
like
Even with all the free
serious
stuff,
amount
I
of
don't
free
think you'd
stuff.
want to live
I
there.
don't
Hang
want
on,
to, but
Patriot Gallery.
I was just
still.
thinking about the ties between homosexuals and the Muslims, because homosexuals, if you get around them and you hear them talk about women, they're appalled by women. They're sickened by women. They can't be around women. And that's how the Muslims act.
Mm.
And they hate women. And when you think about homosexuals, you think of sodomy. So a lot of these Muslims are probably hurting their wives and children in the same way. And it's disgusting.
I love it.
And that's where their views of women come
Good
from.
point.
They hate them and they're appalled by them.
Right. And you know what? Since you decided to take a break and voice an opinion, I want to voice an opinion that I have, that I feel like if Alex Jones can do it, I can do it too.
I
And
just thought that's why they made them cover their faces. They
Yeah.
can't stand to look at them.
could be. And that is the fact that they are inbreeding. And when it comes to
Yes, actually, Alex Jones did bring this
the
up.
actual, I wasn't thinking of him. I just meant like a rant. I'm allowed to say extreme things that I want to
Yes.
because it's our show. And my extreme thing is
You marry your
Inbreeding-
first cousin. This is not a good thing.
inbreeding is kind of like, okay, so homosexuality is from a biblical standpoint a twisted version of something that is natural. Inbreeding is also another twisted thing. So in that, it makes it it's a depravity of mind to do such, and you're going to see the depravity continue because this actually messes with the DNA. It messes with everything.
And
so
you
they
know
are
what?
birthing, and they're like okay with this.
It's crazy because
They,
like
want it.
normal people have a normal revulsion to
inbreeding.
To inbreeding. It's normal. Like there are things that normally revolt you to things like the smell of feces tells you that's revolting because it actually can spread disease.
Right.
Right? And so God gives us these natural revulsions to
revulsion.
things that are harmful to us.
Yes.
And the idea that a lot of women have been popping up on Twitter lately saying, my parents were trying to force me to marry my first cousin, and it's revolting to them. And so they try to flee and they try to leave,
Right.
but they can't leave because
The reason why they do it, and it's my show, I can say what I want to say. The reason why they seek this out is because Islam is a satanic religion.
Yeah.
It is worshiping the devil, whether you want to admit it or agree with me or not. It's true. And so in that, with that Satanism, they have to seek out the violence. So they literally, it's not that they want to marry their first cousin or their sister or their daughter or whatever, like we just covered, because that's that person. They are wanting to do it out of a depraved mindset to seek out the most extreme vileness that they can.
Yeah. And
that is why they do it. And there's Michelle's 2 cents of not holding back today.
So everybody's been tweeting out recently today about the Bolshevik takeover. RT, and this is, listen, I actually love Russia. I am behind Russia because they're changing, but they have a lot of corruption, and the Bolshevik Revolution was just as bad, and it led to just more deaths than Nazism. 65 million people died under Karl Marx. I don't think that these communists have read his works or read about him, because if they did, then they're twisted too. Because Karl Marx was a lazy, twisted, sick man who had loved, had a child with his, brought in a woman to clean their house. He was lazy. He had other people paying for him. He wanted all these young women to start having sex with married men. I mean, seriously, it's in his writings. It's so disgusting. He wanted to
with the twistedness.
Yeah. He obviously didn't love his wife if he's like bringing in a maid, having sex with her. And then he doesn't even like become a father to this child, makes the child visit its mother through the back door. I mean, like, Karl Marx is a really bad dude. Dude. Horrible. Like, we're thinking about Harvey Weinstein. We're talking about, Woody Allen, these crazy maniacs. And they got their ideas from Karl Marx. And that's where a lot of these guys got their ideas. That's where Hugh Hefner got his ideas on how to treat other people, how to treat females as objects. So anyways, the Bolshevik Revolution was not about freedom for people, and everybody says it was about rising up the worker party. No. When you're angry enough and you don't have God and you see injustice, and then you become the person who is unjust, you're worse. You are worse. It's like with the French Revolution when you're chopping off people's heads in the guillotines. This is wrong, okay? So anyways, the leftist celebrates Bolshevik takeover. RT actually put it together, a documentary, praising the Bolshevik Revolution. And not all Russians are obviously behind it. I think there are several minds in even Russia, as like there are here in America.
Right.
You can't just say the Russians, So just like you can't say the Americans.
But it's so much easier for them to do that. It fits their narrative a lot easier.
Right. So Sky News allowed a leftist filmmaker, this is what I'm talking about, to declare the Bolshevik takeover of Russia a triumph for ordinary people. They allowed that statement to go unchallenged for the centenarian of the Red October coup d'etat. After the Tsarist autocracy was dismantled, socialism was born under the lead of Vladimir Lenin, says the Sky anchor in her introduction to the segment. An unusual way to describe the armed moonlight takeover by the communist leaders' Red Guards in October 1917, which displaced the provisional government installed by a genuine popular uprising that happened in February. So the Bolsheviks, literally, there was a genuine popular uprising that happened in February, and we actually might have been able to get behind that. They were not commies.
Right.
It was the people. But what happened is this tiny group of Bolsheviks, which I would equate to the Antifa, took over. And other people didn't want to fight. They didn't want to be violent. They didn't want people dead. So they just let them. And this is what happened.
Over.
Bad things happen when you let tyrants take over. So basically, I really want to emphasize this. There was a people's movement that happened in February, and the Bolsheviks stole it. They stole it. It's like if you do all the work and you bake a cake or whatever like that, and somebody literally comes and takes it and eats it all. Literally,
that's depressing.
And that's what communists do. That's what communism is all about.
Dirty commies.
Yeah. So anyways, Siri Dingle, director of the crowdfunded film 1917, Why the Russian Revolution Matters, is then given free rein to assert that the Bolshevik coup encouraged people to fight back against colonialism and help women get equality and the right to vote. Well, that might have been the case had it been the popular uprising in February that year. Dinkel also claims that the Western reaction to the coup, because Western elites at the time were so freaked, ushered in preventative measures that we don't relate to the Russian Revolution, like the development of welfarism or state intervention in the economy, simply to prevent a repeat of what they saw. So what they're saying is that, like, the West implemented FDR type programs because they didn't want a popular uprising to happen. That is absolutely not true. What happened is communists came and infiltrated our government and infiltrated our mindset. It's the opposite, actually. They didn't want people in Britain and elsewhere to be inspired by the people in Russia. You know what? Nobody was inspired by the people in Russia. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. Some people were. Fanatics. Fanatics who actually are thieves at heart. Because communists are thieves at heart.
Yes.
They take what does not belong to them.
They're not Robin Hood thieves, though. Let's be clear. They're not. They make themselves sound like Robin Hood thieves. They sound
like them, but they keep them.
We're going to steal from the rich and give to the poor.
If you look at Chairman Mao's life and his leader's life, I've been reading a book on Chairman Mao. This dude was a dictator who literally thought that all the different things that he was implementing, if people died, if people were hurt, if people had to work long hours, it was no big deal. I mean, there was one big thing that was being dug, and they dug it out with shovels, and they had this big push. And he went and worked for just like a few hours and got sweaty and left.
Right.
That's communism. Okay? Don't give me... I can't...
Don't get her started now.
Get me started on communism. I started myself.
You did?
I know. The film we've made is a mythbuster. It's claiming we've seen a Disney-fication of the takeover in recent years. No, you're Disney-fying it. You're glossing over the fact that people died of hunger and starvation when you try to rule their lives. For example, people see the revolution as a very bloody period in history. In fact, storming of the Winter Palace in the October Revolution was practically bloodless. Only 2 people died. But people don't go on to say that they hunted down anybody and put them in gulags, and there was anybody who spoke out against their revolution was either killed or sent to re-education camps. Seriously. Anyways, people think that history is a long continuation of evil, blah, blah, blah. It is true that the takeover of the Winter Palace was achieved without much violence, although it was the Bolsheviks themselves who transformed it into a spectacular struggle in later years, staging exaggerated reenactments in order to boost its image, right? The Civil War and accompanying repression, which followed the takeover, however, was far from bloodless, with the Reds battling the counter-revolutionary whites across Eurasia, as well as the ordinary peasants who formed the Green Armies in order to protect their communities from both sides. The Greens were ultimately slaughtered by the Bolsheviks in their forest hideouts by extensive use of poison gas.
Lovely.
Yay, Bolsheviks! You guys are just so great, man. You took over Russia and bloodless, but then there were people who didn't like you, so you just killed them. That's no big deal. That's just how things go. You know, it's just awesome.
Hang on. Kate says that what these depraved people want, they try to make it seem like it is the way that it should be so that they don't seem so disgusting. And that's what abusers always do. They try to, and that's what Hollywood has tried to do, to infiltrate. It goes across the board. They try to create a norm so that it doesn't seem as bad when they're actually doing it.
So, anyways, the Sky News woman, I don't even want to play it because I don't want to promote any sort of propaganda, and it's hard for me to watch when nobody actually stands up to the Bolshevik commies. So I'm hopefully going to put this link in there for you. Now, I'm going to play. I'm going to go to
play. Finally get to it?
Well, yeah. But first I'm going to go to this one. Hungary's Orban, EU still making excuses for crimes of communism. Many in the West today are still making excuses for the crimes of communism. Even the European Union itself is reluctant to unequivocally condemn them, says Viktor Orban.
They can't unequivocally condemn them because they're trying to resurrect them.
They are them. Speaking at an event to mark Memorial Day for the victims of communism on Saturday, the populist leader noted the left-wing ideology emerged in the 20th century as an intellectual product of the West, but in the end it was we Central Europeans who were forced to live under this originally Western idea. Orban underlined that in the West, communism remained nothing more than a theory, providing tinkling intellectual excitement for meddlesome global utopians such as Sidney and Beatrice Webb, prominent figures in Fabian social Fabian socialism accused of acting as apologists for the Soviet Union. He recalled how many members of the Western intellectual groups, artists, writers, and politicians, and self-proclaimed progressives praised the genocidal communist dictatorship.
Patriot Gallic.
3 minutes ago, a church was, a bunch of people were shot up in a church.
Where?
Put it in your history if you want to pull it up.
Where?
Okay. Texas.
In Texas. We're in Europe, man. But that's awful. That's awful.
We'll find that. Maybe
you know what we'll do? We will finish our Europe segment,
and if it's,
and we will come back and bring that separately.
It is difficult to believe that it was not obvious to them that those whom the Soviets regarded as class enemies or as dangerous for any other reason were being deported to slave labor camps. The Fidesz leader criticized the EU in particular for its failure to condemn the crimes of communism, which he believes can be traced back to the fact that while an international military court passed judgment on the crimes of Nazism after the collapse of communism, representatives of the free world did not arrive to a similar verdict. In Central Europe, however, even after a quarter of a century, we still remember the nature of tyranny and are reminded of that everywhere. And so he says, today in Hungary, we live in freedom and safety. We have a bright future, and we have chosen ourselves, unlike communism, in which, that we have chosen ourselves, in which we, blah, 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 blah. So anyways, going to, I have to cover this too, before we cover our last story.
Puigdemont.
Ex-Catalan Puigdemont and 4 ex-ministers turned themselves into Belgian police. See here.
The main news and views from the week that was. You're tuned into the weekly on RT International. I'm Ewan O'Neill. Welcome to the program. We begin with breaking news. The deposed Catalan president Carles Puigdemont and 4 of his allies have turned themselves in to Belgian police. They are accused of sedition over their roles in the region's attempt to separate from Spain. A Belgian judge will now have 24 hours to decide what to do with the detained officials.
This morning, the 5 persons that have been sought by the Spanish authorities presented themselves at the Federal Police of Brussels. This afternoon, the persons involved will be heard by the investigative judge in this building. The investigative judge has to decide within 24 hours, which means that a decision has to be made no later than 9:17 tomorrow.
Well, the former Catalan leaders also face charges of fraud and rebellion. There are several possible scenarios that may not play out in Belgium. A judge there may reject the extradition request from Madrid, but many analysts believe that's unlikely. If the authorities do agree to hand the officials over, Puigdemont may file an appeal or ask for asylum, meaning it might last some time. Well, they are not the only ex-regional politicians facing punishment over their roles in Catalonia's independence push. On Thursday of this week, 8 other Catalan government ministers were jailed too.
So I wanted to bring you an update.
Wow.
They're really cracking down. I don't have faith in the European Union to rule favorably.
It's interesting that they turned themselves into the Belgian police.
Yeah, it is definitely. I mean, they don't. I don't think they had a choice. Wow. Actually, one more story before we go to my last story about the Hungary Secretary of State. In shocking purge, Saudi king arrests billionaire Prince bin Talal, dozens of others in cabinet crackdown. Now, why is this important? This is actually really crazy because the Saudi family, one of the biggest shareholders of City News Corp and Twitter, was arrested by the Saudi government. This is weird. This is so weird. I don't know how this happens. Like, seriously, I was trying to think about how to explain this to everybody. It's kind of like, and then like the heads of their major news stations were arrested too. So like, imagine if the heads of like ABC, NBC, and CBS were all arrested at one time.
It's very strange.
And like Mark Zuckerberg was arrested by the government. Like, kind of like that, in the best way I could put it. So anyways, that he was the big guy, Al-Awidi bin Talal, along with 10 senior princes. I really hate to use that word, by the way. I know we're using our UK viewers, but I'm not a big fan of royalty. And some 38 ministers have been arrested for corruption and money laundering. Now, from what I'm understanding is that if you want to get rid of somebody, you arrest them for corruption and money laundering. So we have a pot that's black and a kettle that's black. and they're both calling each other black. So I'm not on either side here. Obviously, it's Saudi sinking Arabia, but it's news. It's interesting. They're just, eating their own. However, Saudi Arabia has been trying to come out, like, turn a new leaf. Like, they're going to try to let women drive and try to cut down on extremism.
Really important thing.
Yeah.
So
they're
also,
really trying. They're really working their way up in the world.
Yesterday, a ballistic missile launched from Yemen was intercepted northeast of Saudi Arabia's capital, Riyadh, according to the state media. There have been reports of a loud explosion heard at the capital's airport. The Saudi Air Force shot down the alleged weapon on Saturday, adding that no damage has been caused. The missile was allegedly aimed at the King Khalid International Airport. Yemeni Houthi forces have claimed responsibility for the attempted strike. Al Jazeera reported, citing a spokesman for the rebels. A missile was with a range of more than 800 kilometers, 500 miles, was launched toward Riyadh late Saturday, having flown more than 500 kilometers over the border. Saudi Arabia's Civil Aviation Authority said on its official Twitter account, I love that they have an official Twitter account, that while, quote, the rocket landed on the airport's premises, little damage was caused and all airport facilities were undamaged. It just seems a little bit odd to me. I don't know, like, why? It wasn't going to do anything. It didn't do anything.
Yeah. Okay, so I also want to mention that Alaouid bin Tal is actually a frequent guest of CNBC. And so whatever's happening in the Middle East, it's always weird. I never know what they're doing. They're always just doing stuff. They always just throw bombs in the air. I mean, like, seriously, Palestine just was always bombing Israel just randomly, and you're supposed to say it's not a big deal. So among those fired or arrested are the head of the National Royal Guards, the Ministry of Economy and Planning, the commander of the Saudi Naval Forces. It's just so weird.
See, that dude, I don't even know who he is, but he looks like trouble. I mean, he looks like trouble from like a 1991 movie.
He is Alaouid bin Tal, and he goes on CNBC, and he's a billionaire, and he owns parts of Citigroup and Twitter.
With that nice little mustache.
He's probably the reason why Saudi Arabia gets such good press.
Probably.
Because he owns Citigroup. There are other people that are hacked at these high levels, and then, like, their main dudes. So, the Crown Prince says everyone engaged in corruption, regardless of their status, to be held accountable, and it's just laughable to me. And the heads of the 3 Saudi-owned TV networks were arrested. Bloomberg adds Saudi King Salman appointed a former HSBC banker to head the country's economy ministry and removed one of the royal family's most prominent princes from head of the National Guard. Separately, a number of Saudi princes and former ministers were arrested by authorities hours after the announcement of the new anti-corruption committee with sweeping powers and headed by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. So I'm sure that this is all on the up and up.
Yeah, I'm certain. Yes.
I'm absolutely
now, here's the thing. Who's to say that those guys are good guys or bad guys that are being arrested? However, like Leah was saying earlier, it's the pot calling the kettle black. It doesn't really matter. We know that the Saudi prince is definitely a bad guy. Kate had said that it's really just an appearance. They're trying to make themselves look good and modern, but it's, underneath, we all know who Saudi Arabia is.
So, and another real question here is, if the Christians are the most persecuted religion on the face of the planet, and they are, why don't we see overwhelming numbers of Christians flooding into Germany or the UK?
Good question.
And why don't they...
Refugees.
What did I say?
You just said Christians, and I was emphasizing what you meant by that. Not just Christians, but the people that need help and saving aren't making it.
Beep in a second.
I could have gotten them, and then I could have grabbed a bite, and Leah doesn't let me eat on camera.
No.
Oh my gosh. Mark H says, USA made a deal to provide defense for Saudi Arabia a long time ago. The USA sent Saudi Arabia a bill when they stopped Saddam Hussein when he invaded Kuwait. We are in bed with Saudi Arabia so deeply that they own us. With the petrodollar and the oil and our dependence upon it, they just flat out own us. So, they are evil. When Trump was there dancing with the Saudi prince and things like that, he may have gave a very fervent and moving harsh
He
speech.
touched the orb, man. What was up with that?
Yeah. Oh, see, there it is, right there, right
See,
there.
this was a cute. This was cute to me. It's too hot. It's too hot. Don't touch it. It's too hot.
It smells so good.
It's cute.
But anyway, when he did that, I mean, it was kind of like his way of saying, listen, I understand the rules. I understand that you guys own us and I'm going to be buddy-buddy with you and whatever. So that was definitely a big disappointment for me personally to see.
Okay, so bring our main story. Here, meltdown. Channel 4's Christian guru Murthy blocks Breitbart from reporting Christianity for reporting Christianity not a fundamental of Europe interview. I know that's kind of a mouthful. So this guy interviewed the guy from Hungary and was asking about migration,
State.
right? And this Channel 4 News, Sky News anchor, Christian Guru, you guys probably know exactly who he is, blocked Breitbart London journalists after the news reported, I read the report, but this is even funnier, the fact that they blocked the journalist and Breitbart on Twitter because they reported, rightly so, you're going to watch the interview yourself and see exactly what he said. He said, Christianity is not fundamental to Europe. And he goes on to try to tell you that that's not what he meant. I'm going to read to you his comments trying to defend himself. He said, typical of you to miss the point and misquote and distort, he exclaimed, adding, put the video up and let people see for themselves. So we're going to let you see for yourself. The presenter was informed that the full interview was linked on the top line of the second paragraph of the article, which is this one right here. Everybody's going to watch it. The full interview is not particularly helpful to Guru Murthy, containing fake news claims the original report did not have room to cover. For example, the statement just this week, the Hungarian Prime Minister talked about migrants as the dark side of Europe. In fact, the Hungarian Prime Minister had said we shouldn't underestimate the power of the dark side with respect to globalist forces pushing this country. So George Soros and the globalist elites, duh, right? And consequently, Breitbart's request for the video was met with silence in social media blocks for the report's author and bureau chief, Rahim Kasim. Elsewhere, Guru Murthy tries to claim he only said Christianity was not part of the European Union, as opposed to Europe in the wider sense, legally, and that Breitbart's report deliberately omits a comma. The recording of the interview does not appear to support his version of events, but his version says that he really meant not the European Union as legally. And so we're going to watch this, and it's absolutely hilarious. And I want to give you the response because the Hungarian minister, Secretary of State, he came back and said he was just shocked at the response. I'm going to see if I can get to that. He says, it was stunning, Dr. Kavats wrote when recalling the interview. To listen to this interview is to behold the yawning gulf that has grown between the Western media elite and the people of Europe, particularly the citizens of Hungary and Central Europe. For example, when I spoke of our opposition to the large-scale migration of a different culture to the European continent and that Christianity is the core of European culture, Guru Murthy said this, but Europe, I mean, Christianity is not really a sort of fundamental to Europe, is it? And he goes, stop and let that sink in for a moment. Christianity is not really a sort of fundamental to Europe. Never mind that that's historically false. Put aside for a moment all of European history. Even today, that view expressed by Channel 4 journalists is completely at odds with the view of many, many citizens of Europe. He also clashed with Murthy at length on the subject of Hungarians who travel to Britain for work legally, talking about the freedom of movement. So, let's go straight to the interview.
In much of Europe. Earlier I spoke to the Hungarian Secretary of State for Public Diplomacy, Zoltán Kovács, and I started by asking him what it is about migration that he's afraid of.
It's an uncontrolled and apparently unstoppable form of migration. It's illegal migration per se. We've seen altogether almost 2 million people arriving to Europe in less than 2 years. And that's an alarming issue, especially if it's related to those areas and to those events that are surrounding Europe. Civil war.
Do you mean Muslims?
No, I mean civil war areas from where potential terrorists are coming. And as a matter of fact, we all know that
he just totally put words in his mouth. I had to stop that. He's like, he already comes pre-biased.
Right.
You mean Muslims. And he's like, No, these are war-torn areas. They have a different culture. We're just speaking the truth.
Right.
The traitors of the Paris or the Belgian attacks did come through the illegal migration way.
So we are talking about Muslim countries and Muslim people. Those are the people you most object to, aren't they?
You know, we are very frank on that issue because indeed we don't go away from the discussion or naming this as a problem. We believe that the large-scale migration of a different culture into the European continent is a problem.
Why? I mean, what do you mean by a different culture?
Because if you take a look around the globe,
does he not understand what culture is? Like, we're not supposed to culturally appropriate an Indian wearing a headdress.
Right.
So that's a culture, right?
Yes.
And so the left does this really weird, confusing mind game. You always know a liberal when they talk out one side and you walk with them that direction. And then they tell you if you're walking that direction, then they tell you to go the other direction. And they will get you around in circles until you're so dizzy that you fall over and just say, "Yes, master, lead me."
The moral of the story is don't take a walk with a liberal.
Oh, that was so
civilizations, if you like, larger countries, the United States, China, Japan, and Australia, all have their nature, their own characteristics. And Europe's characteristics is...
Sorry. If you like something about a culture, like Mexican food, and you try to open a Mexican restaurant, which this is true, some girls had to shut down their burrito stand because they were culturally appropriating a Mexican tradition that they enjoyed, then you're culturally appropriating. But if you talk about something in a culture that you don't like, then you're a bigot.
Are different.
Do you mean Christian, or do you mean white? Or do you
I'm going to back this up.
We need to have their nature, their own characteristics. And Europe's characteristics is, or are different.
Do you mean Christian, or do you mean white, or do you mean what do you mean?
No, we mean...
You mean Christian?
Do you mean Christian? Do you mean white? He is such a bigot. He is such a racist. I
mean Christianity at the core of this phenomenon, which is not necessarily religious,
but Europe,
cultural.
I mean, that's not really a sort of a fundamental of Europe, isn't it?
Oh yes, it is. Take a look at back at
legally or democratically.
Take a look at.
So this is what he's saying. He's saying he meant was that Christianity isn't a fundamental to the European Union. But when you hear the way this is going, everyone with two eyes and two ears, if he is lying.
And Europe's characteristics is, or are different.
Do you mean Christian, or do you mean white, or do you mean what do you mean?
We mean Christianity at the
and he says it culturally.
Of this phenomenon, which is not necessarily religious,
but Europe,
cultural.
I mean, that's not really a sort of a fundamental of Europe, isn't it?
Oh yes, it is.
He says Europe.
Take a look at back
legally or democratically.
Take a look at back even for European integration. The very foundations, the very ideas for European integration are having their origins in Christianity. Trying to keep the original face, the original nature of the European continent is essential for us.
But, I mean, by face, again, I mean, I don't want to skirt around this. You say we're very openly sort of anti-Muslim in terms of coming into Europe. You're
look at his face.
You're talking about white people as well, aren't you?
No, it's, but again, I mean, don't try to make it as a racial or a religious issue. But it's Christianity, if you like, the Greco-Roman, Judeo-Christian inheritance.
Christian culture. Rather than the religious.
It's a cultural environment which is a guarantee for everything you believe is European. The form of democracy, the working of our institutions.
Differs from Muslim culture. If you take out the religion.
Well, I think there are evident differences, and this is not about inferiority or superiority. The differences are there, and again, we believe that those differences are unbridgeable.
And you don't want them.
We don't want to face the very same problems we see many parts of Western Europe facing.
So you must be very sympathetic to those people in Britain who don't like the idea of Hungarians coming here.
Within the European Union, you know, one of the four fundamental freedoms ensure the freedom of movement, the freedom of settlement. Accordingly, the freedom of, say, Central and Eastern Europeans to come here in Britain, work here, and eventually go back or establish their lives here. It shouldn't be mixed up with third party, that is non-European migration.
But you were talking about culture before, and that's what I'm talking about. I mean, you know, culturally, a lot of the Brexit debate was about how British culture has been diluted by people from countries like Hungary. What's the difference?
You know, we learned one lesson, that we don't interfere with the internal debates of any European country. So it should be your internal debate to differentiate between, say, East and Central European and
so it doesn't offend you. It doesn't offend you that British people would find Hungarians as a dilution to British culture. It doesn't feel nice, does it? When you're on the receiving end.
It doesn't feel nice, but again, keep in mind that within Europe, the distribution of responsibilities, the flow of workforce, is not a new couple of years old, but rather decades or rather centuries old phenomenon.
It makes you wonder, though, if you don't like migration, why are you in the European Union?
Well, because the European Union is not about migration. I mean, migration obviously is
freedom
one
of movement is a fundamental, isn't it?
Yes, but the freedom of movement is for European citizens. It's not for third-party citizens or those who are trying to come to Europe as illegal migrants.
But I mean, you wouldn't presumably like British Muslims to go to Hungary either, would you, under freedom of movement? Because it's the cultural bit that you object to, not the fact that...
You have to differentiate. Let's talk straight on that issue. When we talk about European citizens, the freedom of movement is there for everyone. We don't differentiate. Again, it's not about religion. It's about the nature of the continent. It's about the cultural pattern we have to preserve to be able to remain Europeans. In that, there's a place for Muslims. There's a place for all other religions.
What is the place for Muslims if it's not Hungary?
It's a natural place for us, for every human being. So it's, again...
Geographically, I mean...
Geographically?
You say we don't want them in Hungary.
We don't talk about it.
Where is it okay for them to be?
We do have a small Muslim minority, a religious minority in Hungary, so they have a place in Hungary, very obviously. Don't try to make it a religious issue. Again, it's a cultural issue. It's the way we organize our lives, and we like to preserve it, and that's it. It's very simple.
I mean, given this sort of sympathy that you have with people who want control of their borders, you must think Brexit's a good idea.
As a matter of fact, I think the Prime Minister was the only Prime Minister in Europe who has posted an advertisement just a couple of days before the Brexit vote to tell that it's your business how you decide, but we would like you, or rather wanted you, to stay, because that makes the European Union stronger.
Your leader was also very keen to tell David Cameron not to treat Hungarians in Britain as parasites. Isn't there a danger that you will treat migrants, or are treating migrants to Hungary, as parasites?
You know, one element of your argumentation is a little bit disturbing, because you're trying to pull together or bring together different layers of argument here. When you talk about illegal migration, people coming in great numbers without consent, without permission to the soil of Europe, we are not talking about the same thing when we talk about, say, Hungarians coming here, working here in the UK with other Central Europeans, in great numbers, contributing to your GDP, working very hard because they are European citizens. So don't try to argue for me that this is the same. I mean, internal movement, free movement of people and goods is the same as illegal migration.
Countries in the European Union came together because they were alike. They were alike in one respect, pretty much only.
They're culturally a Christian nations.
Yes, absolutely. Every single one.
Right.
Every single one of the European Union's nations have a basis in Christianity. So you have these Christian principles: love your neighbor, do good to those.
Which is what we usually consider kind of a westernized civilization, a little bit, where we all use the same basic principles to abide by.
Our laws come from God, and that's very simple. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, don't falsely accuse other people.
Right.
Marry one woman, stay faithful your entire life.
Right.
Be kind to your neighbor, don't use violence. They're very normal. So our laws are based on that teaching.
So what he was saying, if you didn't catch this, I'm sure that you did. And obviously this, look at this smug look on this presenter. I think, a little bit. This presenter was twisting his words when he's talking about, don't you feel the same as migrants coming in? These migrants aren't legally coming in.
Right.
Okay, that's number one.
And so what this guy was defending, the not Prime Minister, but the Secretary of State was saying, listen, we belong to the European Union. So whether you're pro-Brexit or whatever, within that European Union set of laws and rules, they can abide within that. And he is pro those laws and the freedom of movement. What he was saying is we do not want these third-party countries illegally coming in and then asking for the same exact
There's a reason why Turkey isn't part of the EU right now, is because these Western European nations don't want freedom of movement with Turkeys, with people
Turks.
from Turkey.
Turks.
They don't want to have the same. I mean, Erdogan is a dictator, right? And so I think that there, like what he said was so important. He said there are different layers of arguments. Okay, and so we can all sit down and talk about whether Britain should have left.
Right.
Okay, that's a layer of an argument. All right. We can talk about whether, Hungarians who are, a little bit poor go to Britain and maybe bring down wages. You can talk about that.
Right.
It's legal immigration. This is legal. Okay. We do things by the law. Bringing in a bunch of people who aren't vetted. We don't know anything about them. We don't know anything about, that most of their countries are war torn. They grew up in a different mindset. So when he says, do you want British Muslims in Hungary? What he's, this guy's like, you're not making any sense, because if they really are British Muslims, then they are living in a British culture.
Yep.
Right? And if they're really British, if they are British citizens, then most likely they're part of that culture already. So it's not weird to bring in, the same kind of culture.
I agree.
But bringing in, it's unfortunate that most of these war-torn countries are Muslim, but it's the culture. I mean, Afghanistan has a different culture. Africa has different levels of female genital mutilation per different countries. Each African country has even a different culture. So that's what he was saying, and I wanted to bring that up, and we're going on 2 hours, so...
All right, so before we wrap up here, I had promised you guys the other day, and I'm hoping that I can do this. Last Sunday, if you guys were part of our show, we showed Sean and Tracy doing their little bit of showing us St. Hippolyte's, or the town of Hippolyte's. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct even yet again. But... they had mentioned around that church where Tracy had taken some pictures. And I promised you guys that if she sent them to me, that I would show them. So what I want to do here first is get rid of these other things that I have up here so that I can add. I'm hoping that I can pull up these pictures. Be patient with me for just 1 second, because I'm still learning this system. But anyway, she sent these absolutely lovely pictures. And Leah is going to stick with us, because she's going to get a song that we're going to sing. She's pulling out the Gibson, which is awesome. So be patient there. Thank you guys for being with us. I can at least start out with that. And the moderators that have been with us today. Oh, and also, we are going to cut off here at the end of this segment and... cover whatever is going on in the Texas church shooting, because that's very shocking. Give us about 5 minutes after we log off, and we'll go there and cover whatever happened. It sounds awful.
It sounds awful.
It does. I've got 2 more here to add. Again, if I had had time earlier, I would have had these queued up already, but I didn't. Sorry, I was feeding the pigs. One more.
Oh,
here.
it's pretty. I'm coming back in, but...
All right, she's coming in.
Yeah, but there's no room. There's no room in the
What do you mean
end.
there's no room?
There's no room.
Come... Okay, well...
You can show the pictures, and then you can move the desk.
All right. So I wanted to read what she had said about a little bit about the photos there. And if you guys didn't see our episode from last week, you can at least go on Sunday. Tracy and Sean's video is at the end, and it's also in the link. So the one picture where you see the sun shining through with the 2 trees, she says this is a picture of the lane we drove down towards the church. Then she says that... I think the bigger one that's got the darker trees at the top. She says this is the one. Oh, excuse me. Hang on. The lane obviously is the road. That's more obvious. I'm not sure. She didn't put a description on the other one. This is the one that I took walking through the park. Sean mentioned it was about 5:30 a.m. I started work at 6 and the sun was rising. This is facing towards the church. You can see the gravestones to the left of the picture. Then she says this is a little bit further into the park. The pathway is fenced in now, but it used to be open. This looks like a fairy tale bridge. And the rainbow, she says, sometimes I wake up to rainbows at the bottom of our garden. And then lastly, this is her son and girlfriend walking through the woods in the spring. We will definitely go there as it is covered in a carpet of bluebells. Henry VIII used to hunt in the woods way back then. It was part of the Minsden Forest. So thank you, Tracy, for digging those out because those are absolutely beautiful. And I love that we have a follow-up with that. And then also, while we were going live, when I started out with my spectacles and my Sherlock Holmes pipe, I got...
Not do it.
What are you going to do?
Bring it back, but I guess probably a bad idea.
I will bring it back and let me finish this up and then I will take care of that while you get started. Dr. Charles. So actually, while I read it, I'm going to... perhaps I can do this. Here, this was my intent the first time. He sent this message literally while we were going live. Dear Michelle and Leah, if I were to count the ways I love your channel, this email would be inordinately long. Suffice it to say that your mimicry of British English, to which I am now listening, is absolutely delightful, and your wobbles, which some might call howlers, reduce me to tears of laughter. Collaborate and corroborate, October 23rd at 25 minutes. Slovakia and Slovenia, October 23rd at 28 minutes. Facial hair, male viewers, not permitted to eat soy, and so many more. I love them all. How many news anchormen and women and commentators get the words and the place names right, speak pompously or even fashionably, use vulgarisms, but are totally muddled in their thinking and totally wrong-headed. Your prudishness continues to be utterly refreshing, e.g. your sensibilities regarding pornography, gay marriages, the banning of certain words from your podcasts, and, in today's live podcast, anal examination of gays in Egypt and how painful that would be for non-gays. I'm rolling on the floor in laughter. Your twice brandished pocket knife in front of the camera. This is unthinkable in the United Kingdom or in continental Europe, but it warmly reminded me of my time in the heartland of your country. By the way, is your knife a Kershaw 3/4 ton? It is.
That way.
Actually,
thank you.
A Kershaw. There you are.
Sent to us by a viewer.
Yes. Okay, so there is that. I don't know that. How did you know that that's what it was? Very intriguing.
Astute.
Very astute. There you go. You often refer to your mother and compliment her for the way she brought you up. I compliment her too. There is no greater legacy one can leave the world than properly brought up children. You are paragons of this vanishing category. If I may, I would like to introduce you to a word you will find useful. You all hear so much about values and culture and about differences in values and culture, especially the relativism that leads to the conclusion that all value systems and cultures are the same or are equally valid. You know all about this. In all these years, I have never heard any commentator use the word mentality. Is that right? Mentality. Yeah, that's what you want. We've used that.
Yes.
I think so. That is not the way we used to do things in America. Quote, we do not share the same mentality. It is not the color of their skin. It is their mentality which we find objectionable. I think you will find this word useful. You will be the first of the conservative YouTubers to use this useful word. Incidentally, the Sherlock Holmes hat that you are wearing is called a deerstalker, and a surgery in the United Kingdom is a doctor's office that is not in a hospital. It is 1:40 a.m. where I am, and I am watching your top UK Euro News live broadcast as I hastily type these lines. Keep up the good work. You have my wholehearted support.
How did you get that before you
I checked the email, actually. So, there you go. Thank you, Dr. Charles, for adding to the, Terry Ho.
Nothing like being patted on the back by...
Patted on the back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. In your ways of... we don't mind self-effacing humour, nor do mind you pointing out our flubs and Nancy
collaborate,
and Maxine Waters. So now, if you could get me out of the box, I am a little bit stuck. I'm afraid of damaging the beautiful Gibson if we do not back up just a little bit. Thank you. I believe that is enough.
That's enough. Then I don't have to touch the camera.
You have done enough. Now, I would love for all of our old songs to go along with news in Europe and Muslim invasions and things like that. Unfortunately, most of these songs that Patriot Gallery has requested that we sing a few of were written from a teenager who is working through a lot of things. We've gone through a lot of troubles in our lives.
I'm going to back this microphone up because I'm afraid it's going to get loud.
we come here and we laugh and we giggle, and we make fun because truthfully, God has delivered us from a lot.
Oh, I still got the pictures up.
There was a video that was going around all over social media. I'm sure you've seen it, where it seems to be some sort of gym coach or something lines up all these different young people and he tells them that there's going to be a race. But he says, I'm going to start with a handicap, meaning if you have had these things in your life, take a step forward. So if you've had two parents, take a step forward, and things like that. And it goes on. Like the last one was if your hope to get into college was your only hope to get into college was an athletic scholarship, then you take a step back. And so I don't know if it's whatever. The point is that at the end you look back and you see like all the black kids at the back.
Right.
And then he says, looking at these black kids, which is totally racist, they could probably beat you in a foot race if it all got started at the same way. You can leave that down.
I want it down up so I can see it myself.
And which is totally racist to say that all black guys are just going to beat everybody running, which is actually true.
Kind of, not all black guys, but they do have a more musculature.
Not Fat Albert.
Stop it.
Okay, sorry. I don't know why that came to my head.
Briefly, though, we are going to cover the Texas shooting when we'll finish this segment, and then we will do about 5 minutes research and come back to you.
My point of telling you that story is that I could answer in the affirmative of pretty much every one of those questions except for my only hope getting into college is an athletic college scholarship. That would not be the case. Because I would never get into college on an athletic scholarship. Maybe if I tried harder. We were athletes, but that's besides the point. My point is that I would have been way back in the back anyways, and then the black kid would have beat me. So what does that tell you? Because maybe I would have had one step ahead of him. He still would have beat me.
Yep.
Like every time. So it didn't make sense, but everybody was saying like it was this whole, everyone, even like conservative Christian, like I would think sane-minded people. I had an abusive father who was an alcoholic, and I lived in government housing, and unfortunately, many of the children there beat us up and tortured us, and it wasn't a racial thing because
the white kids did it too.
But no, there were I can remember 2 or 3 different black boys who were raised by two different good black moms, and they were so nice to me.
Right.
But they weren't allowed to go out and play with the other kids and things like that. I mean, like their mom, was she racist? She wouldn't let her sons. You got put in that government housing usually after you got a divorce. That's where you had to go. And so it was all these divorced single moms, and then like the lazy couples who just never worked because you know what I mean?
Right.
So anyways, we lived in roach infested places. My mom feels bad about this. She had to work. So my point is that if you want to call white privilege or even like economical privilege, because our dad worked for, they had this company and they were really, really wealthy. My grandfather built the biggest house in Claremont County. That did not privilege me because I had a father who did not care enough to take care of me.
Right.
Okay. So I didn't have clothes. I didn't have very much food. He had minimum amounts of child support. So like these things don't add up. I mean, they don't add up. And like, I remember being in youth group when most of those kids at church had a loving mother and father.
Right.
Like their dads love them. Like that's awesome. And I'm not going to look down at them and say, you're more privileged than me.
Right.
That's just ridiculous.
Right.
I'm going to say, I am happy for you. That your dad loves you. That is amazing. That's awesome. I'm not going to make somebody feel guilty over that.
When you have the norm, the basic of human rights, you're not privileged.
Right.
That's just the basic of human rights. Anybody else below that just deserves our sympathy, our compassion, and whatever we can do to remedy the situation.
Exactly. And I look at situations where I know I wasn't as abused as somebody else.
You're not privileged to be white and treated with respect. That's just how we should all be treated. okay? But you are definitely treated wrongly when you are black or any other color, or even white for that matter, and you are treated poorly because of the color of your skin.
I saw kids in high school who were tortured. We didn't have any black kids to torture.
We're pushing 2 hours. We got to do this fast so we can come back.
Kids are going to torture kids no matter what. People will torture people no matter what.
Exactly.
And people were tortured at high school. It was not a privileged place to be, is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
All right. So anyways, I'm just going to play a random song.
Play it.
All right.
Long road.
we sang that one the other day?
So Mom had asked for 3 songs.
Two.
I think we're going to
She
limit
said
it
2 or
to
3.
2.
Yes. I don't know if we did that one.
Whoa.
I know, there's the papers in here.
And we'll just take them out for right now.
There go all the
there
papers.
we go. They're fine.
They're not papers, they're written songs. Oh.
I think we should play the other one.
Not today.
we have a repertoire of songs.
I know.
We've already played that one.
I know. Did I sing this one? Do you have the cape?
Whoa. I'll tell you what we do have.
It's right here.
Okay.
Somebody sent us one just in case.
Yeah, that's
that was
right.
awesome. Bill. Awesome. All right, let's see if I can remember this one. This is a little history song. I actually have one. This is a little story about a little history. This is a little story, yeah, about a little history. Well, the world hasn't always been the way it is. My country wasn't always led by public schools or feminist. Our view of history is clouded by circumstance. But there was a time when the word of God ruled this land.
And your land.
Oh, and right was right and wrongs were punished. And our founding fathers knew to go against God would lead to this nation being crushed. Oh, they needed God, we needed God, and we need to go back. Oh, we need to go back. Back. Oh, we need to go back to God's rules, and we ruled 'cause we knew that we needed God if we were to conquer this land. Oh, we need to go back. Oh, we need to go back. Oh, this is a little story about a little history. This is a little story, yeah, about a little history. When kids weren't raised by Disney and MTV, when the meaning of rebellion was to hike your skirt up and show a little knee. Oh, when going to Sunday church was a given, and if you didn't show up, then you must be sinning. Popular thought looks back and says we've come so far. We've gone from created man to from an ape. We have evolved. Oh, we need to go back. Back to where holy and pure and true, honesty, trustworthy are the things really valued back. Oh, we need to go back. There's a time of holiness in a God-fearing land, when motherhood was respected and women didn't want to be men, when rising careers weren't the top ambition, and selfishness was put aside for good God, honest living. Oh, we need to go back. Back to the Gospels, and we ruled 'cause we knew that we needed God if we were to conquer this land. Oh, we need to go back to where holy, oh pure, oh and true, honesty, trustworthy were the things really valued back. Oh, we need to go back. good God, honest living, I said. Selfishness was put aside for good God, honest living. Oh, we need to go back. Back, 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 back. Back, 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 back to God's rules and we rule, 'cause we knew that we needed God if we were to conquer this land back. Oh, we need to go back, 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 back. Back, 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 back to where holy, oh pure, oh and true. Honesty, trustworthy were the things really valued back. We need to go back, 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 back. Oh, we need to go back, 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 back.
All right. There you go.
I do have a history song.
You do. That was a wonderful history song. So thank you to our moderators who were here today. I think I saw Texas Rancher, John Petter, Will, Gary, Kelly. I'm not sure if I saw Maya. I think I did early on.
Maybe we did, maybe we didn't.
Maybe we didn't, maybe we didn't. But you guys, you're awesome as moderators. Thank you for all the comments. We had some really good comments today, and so once again, I must implore you.
That's what I
did
need,
not get
like,
a chance.
I would like a commenter screen right here. Like if I had like my way, it'd be cool to read your comments.
We didn't get a chance to read your comment out loud. Please, please, please put it in the comment section once the video actually processes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to both of our channels, Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. We are on VidMe, we're on Facebook.
You know what I realized? I thought about something. So Mass Faith 3 is where all y'all are at. So we're here. People. But it would be more sensible to have our channel be Resistance Chicks, which is why we have the Resistance Chicks channel. But everybody found this channel because the YouTube started to censor. That's a whole other topic. Just the title, Resistance, right? So I thought it was funny that, like, literally, I think that God is having us just fly under the radar,
right?
Because we're not a channel that's being pulled out by a specific like name or the Resistance or something like that. What the heck does Mass Faith 3 mean anyway? We're not even like High Impact or conspiracy scope or something like that.
For those of you that are new, Mass is are my initials, MAS, my initials. Faith, Leah's middle name, and 3. This whole thing came about when there were just the 3 of us: our mom, Patriot Gallery, Leah, and I.
Yeah,
it was just something that we came up with.
Yeah.
Mass Faith. And I think
it was like a username we used on things. So like we changed up our Gmail, massfaith33@gmail.com.
I had to add a 3.
We had to add a 3.
So there you go. There's our email address, and our P.O. Box is P.O. Box 107, Milford, Ohio 45150.
Michelle's birthday is November 9th. Okay, I had to shout that out there.
Anyway, we're going to be back very briefly. Come back in 5 minutes. That's 10.
5,
4,
3, 2, 1.
And we will see you there. Don't forget, it is not just a conspiracy theory if it's the truth.
Gotta watch the shooting in Texas,
we're bringing it back to you. And I'm going to remind Leah one more time, beep, beep, that when this signs off, shh, she can't do it. She can't help it. Look at the face. That was like a shock. Like, I can't do it. All right, come back in 5, 4, 3. Oh my gosh.